Good morning, shareholders. First of all, receive our cordial welcome and also to express my pleasure to have you all attending in the General Shareholders Assembly to look at exercise 2025, Fiscal Year 2025. I am Augusto Lopez Valencia, the Chairman of the Board. I have here with me Daniel Henao, the CEO of the company, Mr. Sergio Chavarria, Vice President of Financial, CFO, and Administration, and Dr. Manuela Otero, who is the Secretary of the Board of Directors. Please verify, Secretary, the quorum of the Assembly. Good morning. The Secretary speaking. Right now we have 252,834,018 shares represented, which is equivalent to 85.48% of quorum. In these conditions, then, there is quorum to deliberate and make decisions valid. So I declare officially opened the General Shareholders Assembly, and I request Mr. Secretary to read the agenda proposed for the Assembly today. The agenda for the regular Shareholders Assembly for Mineros S.A. First, verification of quorum and opening of the Assembly. Second, approval of the agenda. Third, designation and appointment of the review and approval of the minutes. Presentation of the annual management report. Fifth, presentation of financial statement, both separated and consolidated as of December 31st, 2025. Sixth, reading the report of the external auditor. Seventh, approval of the management report. Eighth, approval of the financial statement, separated and consolidated, with closing date December 2025. Ninth point in the agenda, approval of the buyback program, shares buyback program. 10th, approval of the reserve for buyback reserve. 11th, presentation and approval of the dividend distribution project. The 12th, presentation and approval of the bylaws reform. 13th, consultative vote for the Board of Directors. 14th, election of Board of Directors period 2026-2027. 15, fees for the Board of Directors. 17th, propositions and other topics. First, verification of the quorum. Let me say that this Assembly was called upon following regulation according to and publication in the website of the company on 24th February 2026. Turning now the shares listed in TSX, the company is using disposition of notification and access, complying with all laws and regulation, making available to shareholders the required documentation. Except there are any objections, I propose that waive the reading the notice, and I certify that there has been proof of notification of the meeting, that it was done according to bylaws of the company and Canadian regulation. As I just confirmed, we have a quorum of 85.48% of all shares in circulation. Therefore, there is sufficient quorum to deliberate and make decisions valid. I also report that neither the managers nor the employees of the companies are representing any foreign shares. I consequently officially declare open the Assembly. I report to the shareholders that the meeting is being recorded through streaming in the website of the company. Second, approval of the agenda. Dear shareholders, the votes in this Assembly will be carried out by applause. Kindly raise your hand in case of disagreeing any of the decisions being made. I subject to the consideration of the Assembly members the order of the day. Thank you very much. Can you hear me better? Good morning, Mr. Chairman of the Assembly, Secretary, members of the Board of Directors, members of management, and other shareholders. Vis-à-vis the agenda proposed for today, on behalf of Sun Valley Investment as shareholder of the company, I allow myself to propose a slight adjustment so that the point of the presentation and approval of the project for dividend distribution, that is in the numeral 11, could be moved to point 9. It would be addressed there before points related to the buyback, shares buyback and the reserve for shares acquisition. This substitutive proposal, it will simply alter the order or sequence of points to define the dividends first and then the buyback, the shares buyback. The proposal would be first, verification of quorum and installation of the assembly. Second, approval of the agenda. Third, designation of the commission to approve the minutes. Fourth, and the management report. Fifth, presentation of financial statements, separated and consolidated as of December 2025. Sixth, reading the external auditor report. Seventh, approval of the management report. Eighth, financial statements approval. Ninth, presentation of the dividend project. 10th, approval of buyback program. 11, presentation of the reserve for approval of the reserve for buyback. 12, bylaws reform. 13, consultative vote for the board of directors. 14, election of the board of directors for 2026-2027. 15, fees for the board of directors. And finally, 16, propositions and other discussion topics. Bearing in mind the proposal subjected by the shareholder, I ask the assembly whether you approve the proposition, the substitutive proposition. It is so approved. Good morning. My name is Inés Elvira Toro. I represent 17,000 shares. Obviously, we're a minority, but I don't agree with that because first, I'm going to say I excuse. First of all, they give us, they tell us they're going to distribute dividends, and then they tell us how much they're going to spend for buybacks. I do not agree with that change of agenda. Subject to the consideration. We will give the explanations about that at the moment. When we consider those points, we will properly explain and clarify. Now I ask, does the assembly approve the substitute proposal for the agenda? It is so approved. Third point, secretary. Appointment of the commission to review and approve the minutes of the assembly. I put to the consideration of this assembly Daniela Vélez and Santiago González as delegates to create the commission that reviews and approves the minutes for this meeting. The delegates are present in the meeting. The delegates present in the meeting, please stand up so that the shareholders can identify you, those that are appointed or proposed to be the review committee. The review commission. Daniela Vélez, Daniela Weiter, and Daniela Vélez. Do we approve according to the regulation of the assembly, the election to supervise the scrutiny is integrated by the chairman and the secretary of the meeting, who, in conformity with compliance with the regulation, can request the accompaniment of the external auditor. Fourth point, presentation of the annual management report. We subject to the consideration of the Assembly report for 2025, annual report which was available to the shareholders in the legal terms of inspection right in compliance with the law. The management certified the compliance of the intellectual property laws and regulation and copyrights. It is up to date in Social Security and expresses manifestly that the company has not blocked the free circulation of invoices issued by suppliers and vendors. The exercise clause with historic records, achieving record revenues of 3.2 billion and net profits of in excess of $500 million as relevant facts and events, we report the following. The first, the signature of an agreement for acquisition of 100% of Titan project, previously known as La Colosa, in Cajamarca, Tolima, Colombia. Second, the new appointment of the chief legal officer, Marta Saracha, the beginning of the analysis by the board of a possible corporate relocation. According to the expansion in Nicaragua, we report significant progress. The HEMCO plant, already reached sustained capacity of 2,000 tons a day, and we are approaching a goal of a target of 2,500 by the end of the year, 2,500 tons. We're discovering higher grades in Novotombo Reserve and the execution of the most ambitious exploration program in our history, with 75,000 meters in depth, scheduled for 2026. Having presented the central points on the certification by law, I give the mic to the CEO of the company to expand the details about strategy and operation to proceed, before proceeding to the vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, shareholders, management team of the company, representatives of regulatory institutions, listening, the media, and other attendees. It's an honor to present to you the results of what was undoubtedly a truly transformational year for Mineros. Before entering into the nitty-gritty, I would like to very specially thank to our teams in Colombia, in Nicaragua, our team in Canada, and in Chile, that made possible this excellent performance. To our shareholders for their trust, and to our communities with whom we built something much more lasting than any financial metric. Allow me to begin with the most important thing. In 2025, we had 0 fatalities in our industrial operations. Our rate of accidents with lost time was 0.09% in Colombia, an exceptional 0.16% in Nicaragua. To put into context, the world-class standard is being below 1, and the average of mining globally is between 1.5 and 2. We are significantly better below that average, and that's not a coincidence. Here in Mineros, this is not a metric but a fundamental value. As follows, we will present a summary of activities and results of 2025 fiscal year. The full document will be found in the printed book that we put in your seats, and the separated financial statements that we publish in the website. This management report was presented according to Circular 012 and 031 of 2012 of the Financial Authority of Colombia. Let's begin with the general aspects of the company. We are a gold mining company with HQ in Medellin, Colombia, with a diversified operation in productive stage and development stage in Central and South America. Our mines in operation are Nechí Alluvial in Colombia and HEMCO property in Nicaragua. In addition to that, last year we closed the purchase of 80% remaining of participation of the La Pepa project in Chile, reaching 100% ownership of this project. We have a series of growth projects in the pipeline, like the expansion of HEMCO and the progress of Porvenir, which are in pre-feasibility stage and now defined as potential polymetallic district with neighboring deposits like Guillermina, Leticia, and San Antonio. Our shares are listed in Colombia with the Mineros symbol and Toronto Stock Exchange with the MSA symbol. Furthermore, in 2025, we carried out the registration of our shares in the OTCQX in the U.S. under the symbol MNSAF in the U.S., expanding our access to foreign investors. Recently, we achieved the eligibility of ETC, which is Depository Trust Company in the United States. In simple terms, simply put, this allows any investor or broker in the U.S. be able to buy and sell shares of Mineros electronically without friction as any other American company. We are opening up the door to the largest capital market in the world. In Mineros, we're focused on profitability and sustainable growth, supported by a solid history of value generation for our shareholders. We're going to talk about the most relevant financial events and facts. Sergio will talk to you in more detail about these results, consolidated and separated. So I'm just going to mention some highlights and metrics, the most relevant metrics. During 2025, we had record revenues of 13.2 billion pesos, trillion pesos. This is about $800 million, registering an increase of 46% compared to 2024. Our net profit also registered record levels with 594 billion pesos, 68% in excess of last year. These results were possible thanks to production of 227,000 ounces of equivalent gold, exceeding the highest range of our production guidance for 2025. Only in December, just in December, we had a production of approximately 21,000 ounces. Well, this is the largest production in history of our two mines in Colombia and Nicaragua. On the other hand, we paid dividends totaling 121 billion pesos, and we carried out a share buyback program for 47 billion pesos. In total, the return to our shareholders added 168 billion pesos, a record return and yield in the history of Mineros, reinforcing our commitment to the generation of value to you, our shareholders. Additionally, the share of Mineros had a truly exceptional behavior, with a return of 275% in Toronto Stock Exchange, the market where we were listed. We were included in the top 30 in the TSX, which means that we had a superior performance to 98% of all the companies listed in TSX. This is a stock exchange that has more than 1,800 issuers and underwriters. In Colombia, our share increased to 159%, where with the second consecutive year, we were the best performance stock in the year in the country. We are building a Mineros, a company that hopes to become a global relevant producer of and in spite of the historical record performance of our shares and results, we consider the continue being very low value in our share price. We generated $100 million in sales last year with an average price of gold below 3,000 per ounce, and our market capitalization is approximately $1 billion, which is less than 1.3 times our annual revenues. We are convinced that gap is a very significant opportunity for investors. Now turning to operational performance in Colombia, our alluvial operation produced a total of 89,777 ounces of gold with an AISC of $1,579. Set in motion of Aurora plan is an important milestone that will strengthen our production in Colombia. In Nicaragua, Empro continues being the growth engine of Mineros and represents approximately 60% of our total production. During 2025, Hempro produced 131,831 ounces of gold and 364,888 ounces of silver, closing a fourth record quarter in our history. Record and a record December, our best quarter ever in the history of Nicaragua. Our mining partners of the Bonanza model represents a high percentage of the production of the fourth quarter, confirming the solidity of our partnership model. Furthermore, the recovery of the recovery levels improved from 87% to more than 90%, and the recovery of silver, an increasingly more relevant component, went from 30% to more than 70%. For this reason, we are beginning to report our production metrics in equivalent ounces. Now turning to the development projects, represents one of our the pre-feasibility study under the NI 43-101. The results are presented in the next few days. They represent a fundamental milestone in Mineros. These results back up the history of Mineros, the vision of Mineros to developing a polymetallic district with presence of gold, silver, zinc, and copper at 14 kilometers from our production mines, Pioneer and Panama. During 2025, we completed 14,500 meters of diamond drilling, total of 52,000 drilled meters in the entire property. The results confirm measured, indicated, and inferred resources in close to the Porvenir projects with deposits Guillermina, Santa, and Leticia. The drillings in these deposits confirm the vertical continuity in depth. Similarly, we've identified new areas of interest close to the Porvenir projects, highlighting the support vein system that extends the potential to the northeast. We also discovered high-grade mineralization in the emergent Momotombo zones at 2.5 kilometers to the northwest of Porvenir, which reinforces the solid exploration potential of our mining district in Nicaragua. Talking about Chile, the project, La Pepa project, we consolidated the total of the property, acquiring remaining 80% of Pan American Silver, paying approximately 40% for $40 million. The project in the prolific Maricunga belt to the north of Chile has mineral resources that exceed 2 million ounces in gold. In December 2025, we formally launched the work program with the appointment of Rafael Casas Plata as project manager, and we preliminarily presented a technical report following NI 41-101, which is already in CR Plus. Currently, we are carrying out a drilling program of approximately 7,000 meters for the metallurgical evaluation, conversion of resources, the environmental baseline study, and other permits. Besides, we are also making geophysical assessments to increase the size and reliability of the deposit. The integration of La Pepa establishes Chile as a new third operational geography for Mineros S.A., strengthening the geographical diversification of the company in the region. Now turning to the stock behavior. Mineros had a performance, a truly exceptional behavior. Not only we had significant returns in the price, in the share, but the price in Colombia and Canada, but we're also working strongly in consistent increase of transaction volumes and liquidity of our shares, which have increased in approximately 5 times. Last year, the share increased in visibility for investors, accompanied by inclusions in stock indexes, relevant indexes such as MSCI small caps, as well as we've maintained in important indexes such as MSCI Colcap, Colombia Selected, Colombia Select, and the selection of our shares are an eligible asset to be reposed in Colombia. We continue with our commitment to be in constant communication with investors and market analysts. We are reinforcing Mineros' presence in international investor conferences in the world over. We are also working strongly in our communications and information strategy to the market. As part of our commitment for transfer and timely disclosure of information, we received the distinction of Colombia Stock Exchange, who gave us the recognition, the IR recognition, which is an important award. Talking about the gold price, which in 2025 consolidated a period of appreciation, an important appreciation with an annual growth of 65%, which of course drove went from $2,600 to $4,319 as a record level. This ascending trajectory translated to a average sales price of $3,474 per ounce, which represents an increase of 44% vis-a-vis 2024, and it significantly strengthens our operational margins. During 2025, we didn't take any position for a hedging in gold, which allowed us to benefit enormously from this strong bull market. This behavior resulted from macroeconomic factors persistent in reinforcing the metal as a safe haven, as a reserve asset. It was a catalyzer, a critical catalyzer, giving an incentive to sustainable demand, looking for quality assets backed up structurally by record net purchases by central banks and massive entries in ETFs backed up by gold. This combination of institutional support and investment capital influx flows has become a robust market environment for a company, providing a profitability platform and stability for the reserves and the production of Mineros. It's important to emphasize that we are committed in maintaining efficiency and increasing efficiency in the operation so that Mineros is still profitable and sustainable differently from the metal price. We are aware that we cannot control the gold price, and our commitment is to work to control what we can control, costs. So our operation will be sustainable in the very long term. In 2025, we launched our strategy, Ideas en Acción, Ideas in Action, which today is our guide in every decision we make. With the idea to increase production from to 2027 equivalent. We hope to get to 2030 with a production of 500K on a yearly basis. D, to develop territory, impacting more than 10,000 people through strategic lines such as education, inclusive education and culture, integration of close to 6,000 mining partners in Bonanza, Nicaragua, integrating them into a responsible, regulated, and seamless value chain in the country. E, of excellence in operations. We are increasing recovery levels in our plants in Colombia, Nicaragua. As I mentioned, we went from 87 to 90% plus in gold, from 30 to more than 70% in silver. We are increasing production and processing capacity of our plants from 1,700 to 2,500 tons a day, and many, many more technical engineering initiatives throughout our operations. The A of high performance with a renewed technical team and management team with great capabilities and empowered by technologies such as AI. And the S of shareholders' value, $42 million return to our shareholders in 2025, net cash position of $92 million, 278% valuation in Toronto Stock Exchange, inclusion in TSX, exceeding almost 1,700 companies listed in the country. In Toronto's second consecutive year, having the very best performance of the share in Colombia. So these are the ideas in action. These are just some of the ideas that we're translating into actions and tangible results in our operations. I'm going to talk a little bit about our growth pipeline, our growth vision, looking to the future, because we are convinced that these excellent results in 2025 are not the destination, but the platform to continue our journey. We have an positive cash, an excellent team, a project pipeline that can transform this company in the next 5 years. So now we're going to talk about our growth strategy, which has two axes: maximize what we already have and to build for the future. I talked very quickly about the expansion of HEMCO from 1,800 to 2,500 tons. Beyond, we are already working in the next level of expansion, in addition to 2,500 tons a day, improvements in recovery. This expansion was requiring an important commitment of approximately $50 million. We're investing in this expansion for 2026, and we are focusing on mitigating the main production constraint that we have right now in our company, which is processing capability in Nicaragua. The Porvenir project, as I mentioned before, is in a few days, and very soon, we're going to make a release to the market of the pre-feasibility study for HEMCO, which includes the Porvenir project. The results are very positive, and we are committed with advanced engineering studies looking at expansion opportunities beyond, up so that we can fully tap on the total growth potential in the polymetallic district that we are finding in Nicaragua. We are strongly working in environmental baseline studies to understand the geological potential of La Pepa in Chile. During 2026, we've been carrying out part of the required studies for the environmental baseline in La Pepa. And in parallel, the research investigation of geological potential will help us to identify mineralized structures to go to technical feasibility of the project. This progress will continue at constant step, a fundamental step for informed decision making in the exploration stages within environment, with a responsibility with the natural environment of the project. The exploration program for 2026 is the most aggressive and most ambitious exploration program in the history of the company. Almost 100 kilometers of drillings. We're going to drill more than 100 kilometers in our 3 projects, almost 75,000 meters in Nicaragua, 13,000 in Colombia, and 7,000 meters in Chile, in La Pepa. And we continue working and evaluating acquisition, M&A, focused on assets in brownfield or highly developed assets, with a technical discipline and financial discipline for sound decision making. We're going to act when and only when the right opportunity presents itself. Now, turning to our production estimates and costs for 2026. Our production consolidated perspective is 2030 is 10,000 ounces more than the guidance for last year. That would be we're going from 213,000 to 233, from 213K to 233. In gold, the total consolidated is 233. The consolidated, we have a guidance of all-in sustaining cost that goes from $2,370 to $2,470 per ounce. And we're going to be doing investments, capital investments, and exploration investments for more than $110 million in our projects. We are aware that our all-in sustaining cost is increasing by 31% in 2025. That is clear. This reflects real external factors. The biggest increase in minimum salary in history of the two last decades in Colombia, the two tax reform, a variable cost structure, mining partners in Colombia, which are linked to gold price, but we have a clear plan to improve efficiencies. The costs that we can control, we are controlling them. We have taken proactive measures to optimize that we are executing promptly along 2026. We are finally talk about the sustainability memoirs. I want to recognize that our trajectory has been based on the genuine commitment towards sustainability and the well-being of the operations where we operate. We reaffirm that our success is not only measured in ounces produced, but in the progress of the territories that receive us. We understand mining as an engine for development capable to positively transform the environment and create shared value. Personally, I feel very proud to lead a company that supports the environment and honors its partners. This coherent vision has allowed us to consolidate a solid social license with high approval standards of our stakeholders, both in Colombia as well as in Nicaragua. During 2025, our bet for the regions where we operate was materialized in significant progress. $31 million mobilized through mechanisms of taxes for civil works, a record in Colombia, consolidating this mechanism as our main tool for social license. We've impacted 52 municipalities, 8 subregions of Antioquia, with multiple projects executed. Currently, we have 8 projects in execution focused on roads, education, and sports facilities. For 2024 and 2025, the projects in execution add up to $54 million of taxes for civil works, where we're contributing with $24 million, $3.9 million invested in strategic social investment to strengthen 60 direct social programs in Colombia and in Nicaragua, encompassing health, education, inclusive economy. Almost 11 people benefited in the Lower Cauca region in Antioquia through the Mineros Foundation, which has contributed with $830,000 and mobilized close to $1.6 million additional. We had a reduction of 52 to 45% of multidimensional poverty in the regions where we operate. That's an interesting index. 18,000 people benefited in Bonanza in Nicaragua under schemes of community benefit like Bonanza entrepreneurial project, Minero to Minero, contributing livelihoods and food safety and security of producers, community producers. 1,700 partners in Nicaragua under the model of Bonanza Partnership. 2018, native trees planted in more than 900 hectares in Colombia under the system Plant Alive Colombia, Siembra Viva, and our Green Alliance program in Nicaragua has replanted more than 500,000 plants, rescuing the environment to fauna and flora. This is a test to our sustainability in action. We are building a legacy that transcends the life of our mines and operations. In the package that you have in your seats, honorable shareholders, we have a summarized version of the sustainability memoirs. I recommend you to read it. to feel proud about our sustainable development objectives. The full report is on the website, which follows international standards, GRI, TCFT, and SASB. For those, I invite you, I highly recommend to read with the certainty that Mineros, we walk the talk, transforming mineral wealth in a source of pride and well-being for all. Finally, the printed report includes the information and legalities and clauses, the board of director disclosure, where we comply all the regulation we comply with social security payments and social security, and the free circulation of invoices, and all that information is in your seats. The Código País survey, a standard, and the board of director and management thank the effort, are grateful for the dedication of our employees and their commitment to achieve the goals, the ambitious goals that we have set ourselves. With this, I finalize this summary, the CEO, the report of the exercise, and I give back the mic to the chairman of the assembly. Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel. Secretary, fifth point in the agenda. Fifth point in the agenda, presentation of financial statements, separated and consolidated as of December 31st, 2025. Sergio Chavarria, CFO in charge, will give you a brief explanation of the financial statements, which were made available to all the shareholders with more than 15 days in advance to this meeting. Then we will open a space for Q&A. Go ahead, Sergio. The room is yours. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, good day to you all. Let's begin with the consolidated financial statements during 2025. Company revenues increased significantly, from 1 trillion pesos compared to previous year, 1 trillion pesos more, reaching a total of 3.2 trillion pesos. This growth represents an increase of 46%, attributable mostly to the strong performance in gold sales, which registered record increases 46% in prices, going from $2,387 per ounce in 2024 to $3,474 per ounce in 2025, added to an increase of 4% in ounces produced in gold. These results were partially compensated with a decrease of 6% in silver sales and 25% in energy sales. Costs were 1.9 trillion, an increase and variation of 157 billion. This increase is attributable mostly to higher costs in mining operation, amongst which we highlight buying artisanal material, which increased in tandem with gold prices in 2025, and more costs in all the direct operations in Colombia. Net profit, gross profit had an increase of 74%, reaching 1.3 trillion pesos because of more revenues with the previously mentioned additional revenues. Management expenses and overhead increased by 4%, mainly due to the increase in payroll derived from the salary adjustment and the index and the inflation index and the recognition of employee benefits. The other revenues raised 190 billion pesos, attributable to taxes. After the tax agreement with the tax authority in Nicaragua, paying $49.3 million for ad valorem tax and interest from 2019 to 2024, the tax expense had an increase of 64% and is due mainly to deferred taxes derived from the accounting effect of revaluation of the foreign exchange rate on inventories in the alluvial segment. This behavior was compensated by the expense registered in Mineros S.A. linked to adjustments related and fiscal seals from previous periods. Finally, net profit registered an important increase of 68%, reaching 594 billion versus 300 plus billion in 2024, explained by higher revenues in this period. Looking at assets, the increase of 10%, equivalent to 257 billion, is explained mainly by the increase in exploration projects as a result of the acquisition of 100% of La Pepa. Furthermore, the increase of commercial debtors and inventories, given the new inventories of materials in the Nicaragua segment and the new stockpiles, the increase of 16% in the liability is equivalent to 126 billion compared to 2024 is due to more income tax provisions for dismantling of assets and environmental rehabilitation and accounts payable. On the other hand, the net worth was increased by 129 billion with a percentual variation of 7%, mainly by the increase in results of the fiscal year, which were 594 billion pesos. Now, let's take a look at the cash balance and equivalents. Closing 2025 cash position was 425 billion, a change in 5%, mainly explained by the increase in payments, 405 billion, 782, because of tax obligation, including the income tax and the liquidation of the contingency with the DGI, that is the tax authority in Nicaragua. Similarly, the acquisition of intangible assets and exploration projects for 176 billion derived of the purchase mainly of La Pepa project. More investment in property, plant, and equipment, 99 billion, and an increase in expenses in social security and personnel by 58 billion pesos. We add to this the execution of the share buyback for 48 billion pesos. These outlays were compensated partially by a solid growth in collections and sales, which were 962 billion during the year. The cash flow coming from operational activities increased by 217 billion, closing 2024. This increase is mainly due to increases in revenues for sales, which was partially compensated by higher payment to vendors for goods and services, as well as more payments in taxes, income taxes paid out. Let's go to the separated financial statements. Financial statement. Revenues increased by 73%, reaching 658 billion, explained by more revenues for royalties and more revenues in subsidiary companies. Net operational profit was 594 billion pesos, which increases an increase of 261 billion, 68% more than 2024. This positive performance was driven mainly by the growth of 228 billion in gross profits and 31 billion in other revenues. I end with the general balance, the separated balance sheet. The increase in assets was 142 billion, representing a percentage variation of 7%, explained by the increase of investment in subsidiaries and an increase in investment properties. Liabilities increased by 12%, approximately 12 billion, due mainly to more accounts payable between group companies and more liabilities for deferred tax as a result of the asset revaluation, the effect of Forex on the assets of the company. Lastly, the net worth was increased by 7%, equivalent to 121 billion, due mainly to the increase of the results in the fiscal year. With this, I end the presentation, and I give back the mic to the chairman of the assembly. Thank you very much, Sergio. I ask the honorable shareholders, do you have any questions or comments? The mic will be given to you. Just one second for the mic. Why the separated results have 3,000 million pesos affecting the net worth? Because net worth should have grown to 2,000, you only grew 120,000 million. Why? The other integral result corresponds to the effect by conversion of financial statements. To give you clarity, our functional currency is the dollar, US dollar. All of our transactions are registered historically in US dollars. For the presentation of the information, data are transferred or converted to Colombian pesos using assets at the closing date and a historical that creates a gap and a net worth that is assigned to the next result. It's a timing issue. So basically a timing issue. So the type of the exchange, if the exchange rate changes from one year to next, generate a net worth effect in the way in which you calculate depending on the currency. Very well. Let me ask if that's any other shareholder requires any explanation or ask a question. Very well. Then if there's no more questions or comments, let's continue forward. 6 points in the agenda. Reading of the external auditor report. I request Alexander Rojas Salgado, representative of Deloitte & Touch, that is the external auditor, to read his report on financial statements, separated and consolidated financial statements of the company for the year ending in December 31st, 2025. Just to make sure if you were awake. Good morning, everybody. Good day to you all. I'm going to go ahead and read out the external auditor report. I'm going to allow myself to read the report on consolidated financial statements. And I'm not going to read the separated ones because in essence it's an aggregation of them all. So they're written with the same technique and in essence they reach the same conclusions in the aggregate. So I proceed with the reading the report of the external auditor to shareholders of Mineros and report on the audit on consolidated financial statements. Opinion. I've audited the consolidated financial statements of Mineros S.A. And from now on named the group, which having financial information as of December 31st, 2025, financial statements and comprehensive results and cash flows and equity and net worth changes and financial statement notes, including material accounting policies. In my opinion, consolidated financial statements present reasonably well in all important aspects the real financial situation of the group as of 31st of December 2025, the result of its operations and its cash flows for the year ended in that date and compliance with accounting norms and financial information accepted in Colombia. Basis of the opinion, I've carried out my thorough audit according to international audit regulation and rules accepted in Colombia. My responsibility according to these regulations are described later in the responsibilities of the auditor section. I'm independent from the group according to the ethical obligations that are relevant for my audit of the financial statements in Colombia, and I've complied with the various compliance requirements with this. Consider that the evidence obtained by the audit is sufficiently and appropriate to provide a sound basis to express my opinion. Key audit issues. The key audit issues are issues that, according to my professional judgment, were of the highest importance in the consolidated audit. These issues were covered in the context of my assessment of the statements and in the formation of my opinion. I do not have a separate opinion. I determined that the question determined that the key issue of is to communicate. The key issue is to communicate the report. What is the key issue? The Luna Roja project. as is described in Note 23 to the financial statements as of 31st of December 2025. The book value of the Depósito La Luna Roja is 59,800,000,000, which is an early exploration state project recognized according to the accounting policy described in Note 3.16.2 of the report. Given the phase in which the project is and the different process steps being carried out by management with the regulatory entities in Nicaragua, management applies critical judgment in the evaluation of the impairment indications, budgeted exploration expenses, and the progress of the project. Identify the Luna Roja project as a key audit issue, specifically vis-a-vis the considered premises and judgments in the annual impairment evaluation. The audit procedures were, amongst others, the following. I visited the project to validate the existence and the management process by the company. I verified the mail from all the authorities in Nicaragua with the support of my legal counsel, and especially evaluated the legal analysis by the external advisors about the viability of the project. With the support of my specialist, I've thoroughly reviewed the evaluation of the project by them and the premises used and assumptions used in the estimation of the recovery value and the payback value, using available technical information and comparing it with similar projects. I inspected board of director meetings, findings with the operations management in Nicaragua, with management and government officials to corroborate the evidence. I evaluated subsequent facts until the date of my report. I evaluated the disclosure in consolidated financial statements about judgments on premises and assumptions considered by management, responsibility of management and those in charge of corporate governance in relation to the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and correct presentation of these consolidated financial reports in compliance with accounting norms and the financial information accepted in Colombia, and the internal control that management considers relevant for the preparation and proper presentation of statements free of material errors, be it by fraud or error, to select the appropriate accounting policies, as well as to establish the accounting estimates that are reasonable in the current circumstances. When preparing the consolidated financial statements, management is responsible to evaluate the capability of the group to continue as an ongoing concern, disclosing issues related to the ongoing concern and company using the accounting principle of ongoing concern, unless the company has intention of liquidating or stopping operations, or there is no other realistic alternative. Those responsible of governance are responsible to review the process to report the financial information of the group. Responsibilities of the auditor vis-a-vis the audit of financial statements. My objective is to obtain reasonable, reliable opinion that this information is free of material error due to fraud or error, and to issue an audit report that contains my truth opinion. Reasonable safety, it doesn't guarantee that the audit, according to international audit norms accepted in Colombia, will detect always a material error. Errors could be due to error or fraud and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate we can reasonably expect them to influence economic decisions that users make based on consolidated financial statements. As part of my audit in compliance with international audit accepted norms in Colombia, I apply my professional judgment and maintain an attitude of professional skepticism during the entire audit. Similarly, I identify and evaluate material risk errors in consolidated financial statements due to fraud or error. I design and apply audit procedures to answer these risks and obtain sufficient and adequate evidence to provide a sound basis for my opinion. The risk of not detecting fraud, or that the fraud would imply collusion the risk of not detecting a material due to fraud is more elevated than in the case of a material error due to error, given that it could include omission, deliberate omissions, intentionally erroneous expressions, or the illusion of internal control. So that's even more. I have an understanding of internal control, relevant internal control for the audit, with the purpose of designing audit procedures that are adequate as a function of the circumstances, and not with the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of internal control of the group. I evaluate what's needed and the applied policy applied, and the accounting and disclosures made by management. I conclude on the adequate utilization by management of the accounting principle of ongoing concern, and based on the evidence of obtained audit, I conclude whether there exists or not a material uncertainty related to conditions or facts that might generate significant doubts on the capability of the group to continue as an ongoing concern. If I conclude that there is a material uncertainty, we require me to draw the attention in the audit report about the corresponding disclosed information in financial statements, or if these disclosures are not right, to express a modified opinion. My conclusions are based on audit information obtained to the date of the report. Nevertheless, future events or conditions can cause the group to stop being an ongoing concern. I evaluate the global presentation, structure, and content of consolidated financial statements, including disclosed information, and if financial statements represent transactions and relevant events so that they achieve the reasonable presentation. I plan and execute the audit to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence about the financial information of the entities or business activities inside the group to express a sound opinion on the consolidated financial statements. I'm responsible for the direction, supervision, and implementation of the audit to the group. I'm the only responsible by my audit opinion. I communicate to those in charge of governance in the group, amongst other issues, the scope and timeliness of the audit, and the significant results, as well as any significant deficiency in internal control if it were identified during the audit. I also give the governance, those in charge of governance, my opinion about the compliance of independence and all the relations and other aspects that can reasonably expected to affect my independence, and the corresponding safeguards. From the issues communicated to those in charge of governance, I determined which one of these issues were of the highest importance in the audit of financial statements of the current fiscal year, and therefore these are the key issues of audit taken into account. I describe these issues in my report unless the laws or regulations forbid it, or whether in extremely scarce circumstances, an issue might not be reported because reasonably it could be expressed that the adverse consequences would be more than the benefits of public interest for this communication. Other issues, consolidated financial statements for the year ended in 31st of December 2024, which are included for corporate purposes only, were audited by other fiscal reviewer designated by Deloitte and Touch, which expressed a positive opinion. In Alexander Rojas Salgado signs professional license designated by Deloitte in February 18, 2026. Thank you very much, Alexander. Thank you very much. 7th point in the agenda. Can we pass the microphone? You have a question by the audience. I would like to know why, if the notes of financial statements are a comprehensive part, are they not being accompanied in the report? Why the notes are not in the report? So we don't know what is every point addressing. I don't know if Sergio would like to respond to that. The report that was given here is a summary. The original document, it has the QR code that you can see it, and you have access. It was published in the website, in the page, and all the legal requirements were complied by. since February 19th. Thank you very much. Any other question? So let's move forward, Secretary. 7th point, approval of the management annual report. Does the Assembly approve the consolidated annual report for 2025? It is so approved. Thank you very much. 8th point, approval of separated and consolidated financial statements as of 31st of December 2025. I ask the honorable members of the Assembly, do we approve the consolidated and separated financial statements as of 31st of December 2025? It is so approved. 9th point, presentation and approval of the dividend distribution project. Dear shareholders, I proceed to read the proposal for profit and for dividend distribution for 2025, which tries to balance the growth of the company with a direct distribution of dividends. The key points of this proposal are the following. Result of the exercise. The company closed the year 2025 with net profit of $144.9 billion, equivalent to $144.9 million, equivalent to 594 billion pesos. As a signal of trust in our company, we will propose the creation of a new special reserve destined exclusively to reacquisition of shares. Transfer to reserves. The excess of net profit of the year we propose to transfer it completely to the company reserves to strengthen our net worth. Origin of the dividend. For the payment of direct dividends to shareholders, we propose to release $29.5 million, 121 billion to 185,921 million of reserves from previous years, or non-tax reserves from previous years. Total amount to distribute. This allows us to put to your consideration a total dividend of 121 billion to 185,921 pesos. As a summary, the proposal is to distribute annual dividend corresponding to $29.5 million. This payment will be carried out in 4 quarterly installments, equal payments. The first in April 27, 2026, the second in July 21, 2026, third October 19, 2026, and the last January 18, 2027. This proposal corresponds to an annual dividend of 10 cents on the dollar per share. I ask the Honorable Assembly, do you approve the proposal for dividend distribution of 2025? You have the shareholder, you have the mic. You have the mic, the staff will bring the mic over to you. I consider that with a strong profit increase of 46% in the year, the dividend should have been increased in a similar proportion, because we continue with the exact same 10 cents in the last 3 years, and with a with a lower exchange rate. In FX, we are receiving less dividends proportionately or comparatively than 3 years ago. It should compensate with a profit with increasing profits of 46%. And I would like to add to that, you're distributing only 20% of the profits from 2025, and last year they were distributing 34% of the profits of the year. So for us shareholders, that represents a decrease. Go ahead. My name is Wilson Munoz, shareholder of the company. And in line with the other shareholders have said, I believe the dividend proposal is too conservative and does not reflect the results of the company in the previous year. We've had amazing, very positive results, and when they're not being reflected in what we as shareholders obtain. Even though the share price has increased, this cannot represent the value that you give us, because what you're telling us to sell the shares to be able to capture that value, and it shouldn't be so. It should be as dividends that we can take without needing to. The 10 cents is very low, taking into account that the exchange rate has gone down. Is very insignificant. It's a very little. I consider, and we will discuss that in the next one. But I wanna the shares buyback for this moment is not prudent, because the price of the share has increased. A year ago, when the price was different, it made sense to buy back. But now, to destine from the profits from last year such a low percentage for dividends and another percentage for buyback is not convenient. All of these that goes for buyback should go to dividends. Is not the moment for buyback. In other companies, they've done buybacks because prices are excessively low. The price of the share is not excessively low. She said we're only distributing 20% of the profits. It's very little. A normal percentage would be 40 or up to 60% with more traditional companies. So I do not accept this proposal of dividends. It's very too conservative. We talk about cash. There's a lot of cash available, with more than 400 billion pesos, which are available in cash. More than enough for investment. There's more than enough money for investment projects. If gold price has increased so much, why can't we take advantage of this gain? Why are we not seeing this reflected in the gains? Why are you going to keep that money if there is more than enough to distribute and to develop? And the buyback is not the time. We have to prudently use the money of them to buy the shares at high prices. Again, this is to destroy value instead of gaining value. So I have a different proposal for dividend distribution for this year that contemplates that there will not be. We're contemplating that there will not be shares buyback, and to have a more coherent dividend corresponding to the current financial situation of the company. As you well said, there are shares buyback. We have it in another separate point later, so we're not going to refer to that yet. If there are any questions related to dividends, we have the mic. That's my first argument. How much are we going to invest in buybacks? Because last year we were 47 billion pesos, an equivalent to 13% of profits. And for this year, what percentage do you think we will invest? And why did you change the agenda, the sequence? First you approve the agenda, and then we'll tell you what percentage is going to go for buybacks. I don't agree with that sequence. Esteban Echarri, I'm also a minority shareholder, 46,000 shares, and I disagree. I disagree. I think the company generates more value with investments. The price has been reflected in the value. Dividends can make us buy more income taxes. So I agree with management's proposals. Is there anyone would like to present? Anyone that would like to? Let's answer the question. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, we will clarify. In management, we coincide that to reinvest in our business is the best investment and will generate more long-term benefits. We're beginning to see the share has increased by 275% in the last year. More than 100% in the last 2 years when we began to reinvest in our business. We've exceeded. The performance of our share has exceeded most of our peers. So we consider that that's a very good investment. It's a very good way to give back value to shareholders. The shares buyback, it's a mechanism, an equivalent mechanism to dividends, and brings additional benefits of tax nature or tax benefits, and it proportionally increases the participation of all of you in your ownership in your ownership. So it's basically putting money back in your pocket. So it's a mechanism that allows us to defend the good behavior of the share, to give back value to shareholders, and whoever wants to capture value right out, it gives them additional value if they sell shares. But we, as a company, we do not believe that we are expensive. We are convinced that the shares are are too low, very low, compared to what they should. The market cap of Mineros is at $1 billion, and we sold $800 million at less than $3,500 an ounce. The ounce right now is more than 4,400. So to say that Mineros is expensive, we don't agree. Mineros, on the contrary, is undervalued at very low levels. So we believe, we're convinced that very possibly the best investment option for Mineros is Mineros itself. That's why we believe in the buyback mechanism, to give back value to you as shareholders, and the results of reinvesting are evident in the behavior of the share and in the results of the company. Let me ask, does the Assembly approve the proposal for dividend distribution for 2025? It's so approved. Anyone would like to register a negative vote? You can register the negative vote. You can register it formally here in the Ceval if you're interested in registering your negative vote. Doctora Torres saying that you already have registered the negative votes. You can close. With the due respect, I consider that the shares buyback is not a way of generating value to shareholders. It's to sell shareholders, stop being a partner, and this is not what we want. If the proposal is to tell us, stop being partners or shareholders, giving us those shares. What do you mean? I mean, I don't continue being shareholders, and we're adding value. So if you want us to continue, you're not going to tell us sell your shares. Make us participant in the gains of the company. We're receiving only 2.8% yield. That is very low. It's very well below the average yield of Colombia Stock Exchange. Why one of the best companies in the stock exchange is going to generate one of the lowest yields in the whole stock exchange? That doesn't compute. We're celebrating good results. Why do we generate a lower yield to shareholders? And it doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. As I expressed before, right now we are considering the distribution of dividends. In the next point, we're going to talk about shares buyback. In the next at this moment, right now, we're only voting exclusively to approve the dividends that were just proposed, and then we will clarify everything that you have proposed, Mr. Shareholder. Yes. You have registered the votes in favor and against. Give us a couple of minutes while Receval gives us the result of the vote. Give us a couple of minutes. I ask whether dividends to be distributed are of previous profits from 2016 or of Article 249 of subsequent or after 2017. After 2017. Just to clarify, the reserves before 2016 were extinguished a couple of years ago at the rhythm in which we are distributing dividends, so it's after 2017. Good afternoon, my name is Santiago Velázquez, shareholder of Mineros. This week we are shareholders. I entered belatedly in Mineros 1 or 2 years ago, and I share many of the ideas of my other shareholders, but this is a democracy and the majority wins. But I would like to give a proposition, because the same happened last week in the country club where Jelinski showed spectacular results in Nutresa, another group, and we're not going to give you dividends. The same thing, as you say, We love you a lot. But we'll do it alone. We'll benefit alone. And I talk personally. For me, shares is a long-term investment. But for older people, which are used to dividends, I would like to evaluate, please, for those that would like to have not to leave the company because they've trusted in you in the worst moments of the company, and to give them some yield. For those that play the long game and the long term, of course, it's better a stock of 15,000 than 1,900. But those that receive so little, it gives them an bad aftertaste. And I'm sorry if I've done this in other assemblies. I reinforce that the 65 days are right next to, close to the first round of the presidential election. I move in Begachí, in the northeastern region of Antioquia, where I have crops. What we have to do a lot of pedagogy of participating in the next elections, because even though we have operations in Nicaragua, in Chile, and we kept Colombia is where we were born, and Colombia, we can lose it if we are apolitical. So in a company that is regulated by the government, we should do in our environment without direct participation, just promoting participation of our colleagues and employees, telling them about the risks that an anti-mining government has, what could happen with the company. Thank you very much. Thank you, Santiago. Do we have the result? Let me confirm. Point 9 of the agenda was approved by 98% of the quorum, 251 million shares, 544,089. The Assembly ratified the result, the decision. 10th point in the agenda, approval of the stock buyback or share buyback program. Honorable shareholders, according to the applicable regulation, the company can repurchase shares by decisions of the shareholders' assembly. For this purpose, it's necessary that first, the resources employed or used by the company, or the proceeds used by the company, come from liquid profits. Secondly, the reacquisition should be done through mechanisms that guarantee equal conditions to all shareholders. And third, the price is set based on a study made according to technically recognized procedures. In this context, we propose the approval of a share buyback program for $20 million to be done in a period of up to a year. Let me ask the Assembly. The shareholder has the mic. Microphone, please, for the lady. The previous year, we invested $12 million for shares buyback. We are increasing from $12 million to $20 million. What percentage is that? Almost that's 55%. 55% of the profit distribution. We are putting it in shares buyback, and the investor, we're decreasing the dividend. Let me ask, who agrees with this? The owner? The shareholder has the mic. Mr. Chairman and shareholders, in relation to a point of the shares buyback program, in my condition as a shareholder, I would like to subject to the approval as a substitute proposal, consisting in approving a shares buyback of the company for a higher amount proposed by management that goes up to $80 million. Using the reserve for a period of up to 3 years. As we've explained before, this is a program that is absolutely voluntary, that depends from the vision that every shareholder has of their vision and their expected returns, and is going to allow shareholders that have the intention of obtaining liquidity to sell, or those that want to buy, that keep betting on long-term value, to stay in the company. Based on this substitute proposal, I give you the proposal, Mr. Chairman. Very well. I proceed to read the proposal, substitute the proposal for point 9 presented by the shareholder. According to what's disposed in Article 369 of the Code of Commerce, we are subject to the consideration of the shareholders to approve a program, a share buyback program for up to $80 million. Using the reserves for shares buyback, and as a consequence, increasing the reserve for this, increase the reserve for this purpose through the formulation of one or several reacquisition offers in a period of up to 3 years, counting from today, through transactional systems of the Stock Exchange of Colombia and/or Stock Exchange, or independent mechanism according to what is defined in the corresponding notice of offer, as long as it is done through mechanisms that guarantee equal conditions for all shareholders. In addition, to delegate in the Board of Directors the faculty to define the specific conditions under which this program will be carried out for shares buyback, ensuring the compliance of the applicable regulation. So I put to the consideration of the shareholders the substitute proposal presented by the gentleman, by the shareholder. If there is no comments, or I ask, does the assembly approve? Yeah, the shareholder has the mic. At what price are you gonna buy back the shares? The proposal is to give powers to management when they determine it necessary or convenient to exert it. It's simply an open permit, not for 3 years, up to 3 years and up to $80 million. It's an open. Basically, when and if there are moments or timely or when there's an opportunity, when the share is too low, it would be the moment. But not any specific moment. We have to remember that this can be done proportionately. It doesn't have to be all of it. Could be proportion. If someone wants to preserve their current participation and share, you can simply proportionally participate, and it becomes an equivalent. It's an equivalent to dividends. I participate. Let me excuse the interruption. You were talking about valuation of the shares and the benefits for us as investors. But in this moment, you're saying that the proposal is to do buyback when the price of the share is low. When? That's a gain-lose, for a win-lose. Let me make a counter proposal. Why don't you repurchase at $15 per share, and I will sell them to you right away, all of them at $15 per share. I mean, so make it a win-win for you and for us. You want to get rid of us, so get rid of us, fine. But $15, and then you can buy the whole company. Thank you, Doctor. You can put it to the approval of the minority, or for the approval of the minority, that we also count. And I'm going to tell you, I am in this company not for me, but for my family and for my grandmother. I believe that for more than 60 years. Thank you. Very good morning. Good day. My name is Lucas Posada, shareholder of Mineros. I am fully in agreement with what she has expressed. I do not understand how management can give an answer which is going to be a repurchase whenever it's low. If all the time, they've always told us that it's low, that it supposedly is going to go up. So for me, we have to put conditions. If many shareholders are unsatisfied with the dividend, you're making a buyback proposal. Tell us what would be a real price at which you want to buy back. But I don't see a win-win. Basically, you're asking us to leave the company. Thank you. Well, the buyback mechanisms are regulated by law, and the mechanism is the market. At market price, you can put a $15 price. The market will pay for it. If you can place that order, you can place that offer at the market. The shareholder has the mic. Yes, good morning. My name is Felipe Jaramillo. Just a comment. March 25th, I was in the Celsius Assembly, an energy company. They also discussed the buyback, and they told the shares buyback, and they told us, yes, for us management, the price of the shares should be between 8,000 to 9,000 pesos, or 10,000 pesos. So we are going to present to you 150 billion pesos to do a buyback at 9,000. Period. At 9,000. You decide whether you take it, which will be in April. But I know about that decision in that company. When the company, that's when shares are going down. Right now, you should be doing repurchase Mineros because it went down from 19,000 to 14,000, which wasn't mentioned either. No, we cannot do it because we don't have reserves approved. We don't have reserves approved. Precisely, this mechanism would allow to act in that situation, but we don't have a mechanism approved or a reserve approved. Let's say these levels at which we're transacting right now in management, we believe that these are levels that do not represent the true value of the company. As I said, we are transacting and selling at 1 point. The liquidity is 1.2, sales of 3,300 announced, and we are at 4,400. The sales projections are are significant. So we consider that we're convinced that at these levels, an excellent investment for Mineros is to invest. And if the shareholders that consider selling at these levels, we as a company, we're willing to buy immediately. We are convinced that with what we're doing, the fundamental value of Mineros exceeds by far the market value of the company. Again, I consider that the buyback mechanism right now is not is not an efficient mechanism to generate value for us as investors. Probably might generate value to the majority shareholder, but the minority shareholders will not generate value. If we sell, maybe we can gain or lose. But to have certainty, it's very cloudy. For example, if you say we're going to rebuy at this price, but you're simply saying we're going to repurchase at the best conditions, but not for the investor. This is not a guarantee. Mineros is you. If there was a price, that we would have more or better criteria to determine whether that generates value. But as it's designed, it doesn't. So I would like, this could be transferred directly to dividends, or tell us at what price you would consider that you will buy the shares to see if it's a mechanism for us, for our investors. But the way in which it is proposed at market price, I don't think it's good for us. The gentleman has the mic. Minority. I'm not a new. I'm here from 2016. What this management has done to generate value has been incredible. The increase in the value of the share, the dividends. If we pay dividends, the company destroys net worth. On the contrary, when they buy back, if you don't sell, it increases your bit of your cake. They're working for all. It's not the majority against the minority. You're wrong. I think they're working for all of us. I agree with the shareholder, but what I do, but as magistrate in finance and a shareholder of the company, I ask is that to clearly specify the buyback mechanism is going to be book building, is going to be market price, or book one way or another. I would like to need more of a clarification about what price are you going to buy and when, what is the cutoff price, the cutoff date to be able to access that buyback mechanism if we want to buy back ourselves. It's not saying no, it's how. Because the ways are very important in the stock exchange. I've been 20 years in the stock exchange, so it's important to clarify, to be more transparent and seamless. I know you've done things well. I think the results have been very good. Otherwise, the share wouldn't be where it is. That is clear. But please clarify the mechanisms in how we can do buyback on our own. Good afternoon. What I've heard from management, I'm amazed that you presented a proposal for buyback, and seemingly you didn't budget that buyback because you don't even putting the price. We authorized a very low dividend. Why don't we set now the buyback price, making it sufficiently high to compensate that lower dividend? That's my opinion. Thank you very much. Well, again, the representative of the majority shareholder that was given the authority to make the proposal of the $80 million didn't get authorization. How much is he going to buy back the shares? You know perfectly how much. Why don't you tell your boss to clarify how much they will buy back? The proposal is to do it at market price. He must know very well how much would be precisely. Yes, these are legal mechanisms. Unfortunately, we cannot exceed the mechanism established by authorities. Surely the mechanism is going to be a book building, and purchases will be made at market price. And the board is empowered and has the faculty to determine when would be the right moment to do it. That's why we're putting a deadline up to 3 years. We have 3 years to see when we have to buy and how much. Very well. Let me ask. Go ahead. You have the mic, sir. So why don't we do? Let me present an additional proposal for your consideration. Taking this amount for a repurchase of $80 million, putting a specific minimum price, and then we can approve it or reject it. But to make more sense, in addition, let's put a price, the specific reacquisition price. Let me propose, taking into account what you said about growth, that a fair price could be 30,000 per share in the next 3 years, in the next 12 months. Whoever wants to participate with a specific price that would give us a benchmark or a reference. It's a formal proposal to subject to the consideration of a repurchase in the next 12 months for 30,000 pesos for common shares. There's another hand. There's another hand in the middle of the room. Everything has been said is clear, but I share the opinion that there should be a price, a minimum price, a certain price, and we would recover a percentage, let's say 1%, 0.5%, It's a way of distributing dividends, non-tax, but with an attractive price. As it's presented, $20 million or $80 million is a very cloudy and very ambiguous. What are the market mechanisms, or what is specific is going to be through. You have autonomy to present a price, and we will decide whether we accept it or not. But it doesn't say that you're gonna. The only ones that gain are the investment bankers here. So this is the price we want to pay, and we will see whether we accept it, and a percentage of how much we can sell. Well, a good day to all of you. Good afternoon. Maybe with the intention of untangling the confusion a little bit and to see the full landscape, look at the landscape. This is a democracy. We're all shareholders, and we have to find compromises or midpoints. More than voting this proposal presented by the shareholders, which is for 3 years, why don't we vote for the initial one for $20 million, which is also, it would encompass the 3 years, with the condition that for the next assembly next year, which is in this 3 year, we have a specific proposal for negotiation price for the remaining $60 million that could satisfy the other shareholders for the buyback, because to open up that possibility from today for 3 years is too long. With that uncertainty, with that ambiguity and cloudiness, it could be inconvenient for the rest of the shareholders. You have the mic. I think about the following. When Mineros intends to buy back shares, majority shareholders and minority shareholders are in that process. We are all in that process. It doesn't make sense from any point of view at all to say at what price I'm going to buy back. It doesn't make sense. Why? If I buy back, what's important is to buy as low as possible when the market is showing signs of undervaluation. To buy more expensive doesn't make sense. Thank you. I mean, it's an explanation. Those of us that bought shares, it benefits the majority shareholders and the minority shareholders. All boats are risen with a level. All those that consider that your price is $15, fine. You can put that offer. If the market reaches that level, you're going to sell them. But when we talk about $80 million, that's to set a price. That's a very. It gives a big guarantee that we're all going to end up winning. We all. I am one of the more minority of the minority shareholders. I invite you to recognize management and congratulate management, because this is not comparable to Celsia, to the other company mentioned. We're talking about management that closed the deal of La Pepa $50 million, closed the deal of Colosa $10 million. I believe we have. I want to recognize and congratulate management because of the facts and the events, the actual results of the new management is not comparable with Celsia. The other company mentioned Celsia, they're distributing 110% of profits. Here we are being cautious, prudent, responsible, because Mineros has all the potential for growth, all the cash. And we're not buying 110. The idea is to improve. I assume we also have to see they close La Pepa for $50 million. They close Colosa for $10 million. We're talking about millions of ounces that they bought that haven't even been born. Very cheaply. I think we have to congratulate these moves by management, that the investments they have made and the way in which they deal and manage are representing the very best value. In my personal opinion, I prefer to be in this side of the negotiation You're buying ounces. You bought ounces dead cheap, ridiculously cheap. It's a clear cut. The same that you're doing with creating inventory and stockpiles. You're buying cheap and selling expensive. The way with which you're accumulating inventories to process, you're expanding processing capacity. Is putting money in they're buying cheap and selling expensive. Guaranteed for the immediate future, is not even medium term. So we have a very top level, top notch management. I cannot guarantee, of course, I don't have the crystal ball, but the facts seen so far, we see that they're not thinking in buying back some, they're thinking in generating value and generating value for all shareholders. And we always have the power of of course, if you want to sell, you can sell if you want to sell. Very well, shareholder. Just excuse me. Just why don't we organize then an extraordinary assembly to set the price of the share, to set the share price as Cementos Argos did when they did a repurchase for $250 million. Thank you very much and have a good day to you all. As chairman of the assembly, I have to put to the consideration of the proposition presented by the shareholder. So I open the vote. Those that are against, please register your vote, the number of shares that you have, and you can please register your vote. And this is why they have to give us the numbers and the vote count. These are $80 million for buyback for 3 years, giving faculty to management to determine the very best moment, to the board of directors to determine the best moment for the board at market prices. Very well, let's take a look at the result of the vote. There was a proposal by management of $20 million. So automatically management voted that proposal. You threw it in the bin and present 80. We propose the initial, or do we present the new one? Let me clarify. When there is an initial proposal and a substitute proposal is presented, we have to put in consideration the substitute proposal. If the substitute is denied, then we vote again for the original one. But if it is approved, then it is the one that is in effect valid. That is the procedure. First, congratulations for your results. Personally, I agree with the buyback program. What you've done, it's fabulous. The only question I have is the destination would be the stock exchange or Canada shareholders. All of them. Every single shareholder, all shareholders are included. The mechanism is going to be is enabled in Colombia, but all Canadian shareholders can participate as well in the same conditions. There is equality for all shareholders, but it will only be executed in the Colombian stock exchange. But all shareholders can participate. Good afternoon. Santiago Yepe Ruiz on behalf of City Trust. About the modification being proposed, I would like to make a clarification with the chairman and secretary, and I would like this to be in the record that though my represented about on the new proposal, the vote should be understood. We should, how were they pre-registered? Understand how they were pre-registered. The votes were pre-registered. We will take that into account. Yes, you have the pre-registration trail. How were they pre-registered? If anyone would like to vote against, please register your vote on the table to my left. So I have a counter proposal. Because as the gentleman said, maybe there is shareholders that have pre-registries And I put to the consideration of the chairman of the table to register only the positive votes, the positive votes only. Once we close the vote, we have to register all the votes, all the votes. If there are positive votes, we have to say how many. If there are negative votes, we also have to say how many votes by procedure. We made the calling. If anyone wants to register the negative vote, you can please register at the table to make sure it is counted. Anyone else would like to register a vote? The vote is closed, because otherwise we're going to spend all day here. With the vote closed, we will obtain all the results. In case that it's approved, this proposal, in case that it is denied, we will consider the original one, in case that it doesn't reach enough of the vote threshold. With the registered city banks, the vote is closed to be registered, but the close is clarification. They're still registering Citibank's or Citigroup's vote. We have the vote count. 10th point in the agenda, we have this decision approved by 91.1% of the votes of the present quorum. 256 million shares for 122,786. So it's more than as a supermajority, so it's approved. 11th point in the agenda, Secretary. 11th point, approval of the reserve for purchase for the shares buyback. Taking into account that the Assembly just approved a program for the reacquisition of shares, we propose the creation of a reserve destined for this purpose for an amount of $80 million. I ask the Assembly, do we approve this proposal? Approved. There is no votes against. We consider it approved. Secretary, 12th point in the agenda. Presentation and approval of the bylaws reform. Dear shareholders, we subject to your consideration a bylaws reform that intends to make management of Mineros be stealthier, agile, efficient, and modern, aligning it with the best corporate practices internationally. This proposal has been thoroughly reviewed by legal external advisors in Colombia and Canada, and was reviewed and approved previously by TSX in Canada. The proposal was made available to all of you, together with the other proposals according to the terms established by the laws and the bylaws. I proceed to explain the changes proposed article by article. Article 25, or Clause 25, quorum for extraordinary meetings. It increased from 5 to 10%, the percent of shareholders necessary to call extraordinary meetings of the Assembly. This modification intends to avoid significant backing in shares and is aligned with international standards of corporate governance. Article 27 and 35, approval of election policy and evaluation of the board. The approval of the policy for election and evaluation of the board will be competency of the board of directors and not the Assembly. This is logical because the board knows better the technical profiles needed by the business. You, as an Assembly, you preserve the power of postulating, electing, and presenting slates and how much we pay. Board of Directors approval of minutes. The chairman of the assembly will propose delegates for the approval of the minutes, who will be elected by simple majority. This means the procedure provides more clarity and transparency. Article 34, size of the board of directors. We're proposing to reduce the number of members of the board from 9 to 5 members. A more smaller board allows for speedier, deeper discussions, faster decisions, and more individual responsibility of every director. Consequently, we adjust the quorum to make decisions valid to the majority, guaranteeing that the board will always be able to operate in an effective fashion. Article 39 and 43, powers of the board and securities generation. We strengthen the powers of the board in two senses. First, the board is a residual body, meaning that it will be able to act in any subject that is not specifically assigned to any other body of governance, avoiding power vacuums, always being without the need of previous delegation of the assembly, which allows the company to benefit from market opportunities speedily and in the right moment. Articles 39 and 43, literal O, contracting limit of the CEO is increased 10 times from 1 million to 10 million, the autonomous contracting threshold from $1 million to $10 million. This change reflects the growth of the operations of the company and allows more speed and agility in managing the day-to-day without compromising the controls of the board on higher or more significant amounts. Article 43, little o, governance of affiliate companies to ensure that all the companies in the group can follow the same strategy. The board will give instructions of direct vote to the chairman, to the CEO of the company in the assembly for the subsidiary companies. We go from authorizing to direct and lead actively the direction of all the holding group. Article 53, reserves. Finally, we replace the instrument of special reserves by a statutory reserve exclusively dedicated to financing capital increases. This gives more transparency and certainty about the designation of resources, the allocation of resources reserved by the company. In a summary, dear gentlemen, dear shareholders, we're modifying Articles 25, 27, 35, 33, 34, 39, 40, 39, 43, 40, 43, and 53 of the bylaws, and has as a purpose to give Mineros a more agile, efficient, and governance practice more aligned with international governance practices. I asked the Assembly, do we approve the bylaws reform? It is approved. You have the mic over there. You have the mic over there and then over here. Are you taking a picture or are you taking you're taking a picture? No, I'm sorry, but there's a lady here. Yes, I did ask for the mic. My name is Catalina Escobar. I have a comment about the board. I believe that to reduce it to 5 is too much. I believe that an optimal point would be about 7 members of the board. 9 might be larger, but 5 could give to lack of diversity of perspective and a lack of counterweights. I think the valuable thing about a board is that it be counterweights, and with 5 could be, I think, it limited diversity of opinion and really deep discussions and conversations. There could be maybe as an overload and the excessive available time for committees. But I think we're limiting the participation in committees. I think it also limits the participation in access to opportunities and networking and media. And I think there would be there's vulnerabilities, vulnerable to exit of one member. To lose a member or two, or a member, it's a board of 4. So while we replace it, get the new member, I think a board of 7 would be a more optimal point to have diversity of opinion, counterweights and different opinions, and have and not to concentrate power so much. Thank you. Let me ask the shareholder: are you presenting a list, or are you just making a comment? Because I will propose that the change in the bylaws is not 9 to 5, but 9 to 7. I put to the consideration the substitute proposal, so the number of members of the board should be 7 instead of 5. Let me ask the assembly, do we approve it? Is denied by this shareholder. Rejected by the majority shareholder. Let's register the negative vote. I reject that proposal. I consider that these proposals are concentrating the power of the majority shareholder in the decisions of the company too much. Is reducing the power to the assembly, and when there is equity members, I mean, we're simply outside the discussion. We're increasingly outside the discussion. The shareholders are outside the discussion, both in the quorum for meetings and less delegates and etc. We're losing more and more power as minority shareholders. This is reflected in the dividend distribution. Maybe there are more than etc. I am very concerned about this assembly. Of all the assemblies that have been this week, this is the one that concerns me more than all of the others because of the decisions that are being made here. Results of the vote. Chairman, Felipe Orozco speaking. I believe that we are making the exercise the other way around. Knowing that the majority shareholders is the one that is putting all the conditions, he should say what he agrees to modify or not. And we simply not throwing ideas in the air. This is what they propose, and that's it. I believe the moment of the vote would be more speedier, and if he decides, gentlemen, I propose this, and my shares are 65% of the share total. So humbly, we have to accept the order. Legally, we have to go to the vote. We have to go to the vote legally, complying with the law and the regulation and the protocols. We have to follow that procedure. We have the result of the vote of the alternative vote for moving from 5 to 7. 90.2% does not approve. It's approved only by 9.48%, which is not accepted then. we have to vote again the initial proposal. The other one was not accepted, so we need to vote again the other proposal. Do the Assembly approve the initial bylaws reform? It is so approved. 13-point consultative vote for the Board of Directors. Conformity with the policy of election, performance and compensation of the Board of Directors. In this point, we request to have a consultative vote, non-binding vote vis-à-vis every member of the Board of Directors proposed. Every member of the Board proposed. Dear honorable shareholders, as this consultative vote, it's a practice adopted with the purpose of complying Canadian regulation, according to which Board of Directors are voted individually. The results of this vote will only be used with purposes of evaluation according to Section 6, numeral EB, that refer to remuneration and compensation of the board. If the majority doesn't agree with any member of the board, their permanence will be evaluated. Highlight the consultative vote will be done for the elected members of the board. I report the Assembly that for the election of members of the board, we only have the presented slates and published beforehand in the website of the company. Therefore, the consultative vote and the election will be carried out about the 5 members postulated. We invite you to vote in the units outside in the room, in the back of the room, in favor of every member of the board. You have them in the screens over there where you can vote. Can you publish the names? Can you project in the screen the names of those postulated members? I announce that the vote is going to be closed. Please, if there's anyone that intends to vote, please do it speedily so we can include your vote. I anticipate that the vote will be closed. If there's anyone missing, we're going to close the vote in a minute. So please, if there's no one else to express their intention to vote, we are closing the vote. and we're going to do the scrutiny of the ballot. We're in the process of counting the votes. Election of the Board of Directors 2026-2027. The slate presented was made available to all the shareholders through the website of the company in advance of this meeting. In compliance with the applicable regulation and the performance and compensation policy of the company, the Governance and Sustainability Committee has evaluated the profiles of the candidates with the following criteria: their functional and professional profile, diversity, independence, incompatibilities, and inabilities. The Governance and Sustainability Committee has determined that all the candidates presented in the slate for election are apt to serve as members of the board for the company. According to Colombian regulation, the Board of Directors is elected through the electoral quotient system, which is described in detail in Colombian regulation and the circular information circular made available to Canadian investors and shareholders, as well as what appears in the decree, taking into account that the slate includes most independent members, as it's implied by regulation, and the election of all the members will be carried out in a single vote. We thank you to proceed with the vote of the slate, which I repeat, the slate read is Philip Martins, Augusto Lopez, Vikram Sodi, Hernan Rodriguez, and Sofia Bianchi. Let's proceed to the vote. I ask the members of the Assembly, do we approve the slate that has been read? It is so approved. 15th point in the agenda, fees for the Board of Directors. The management team of Mineros S.A., bearing in mind a report presented by the Board of Directors with support from the Corporate Governance Committee and Sustainability, proposes that the individual compensation of the members of the board, including fees for attendance to board meetings and committees, remain stable and the same as is shown in the table on the screen. The annual fees proposed are $55,000 for every director, $30,000 additional for the chairman of the board, and $25,000 for the chairman of the audit committee, and $5,000 additional for the other members of committees. It's important to emphasize that the Big Kransolki will not charge any fees whatsoever in the company. In addition, I want to emphasize that as a result of the bylaws reform approved in the previous point, the reduction of the Board of Directors from 9 to 5 members generates significant savings for the company. Even though the fees for the Board of Directors, although the individual fees are the same, the aggregate cost in fees for the board is reduced in approximately 44%, almost half. This reflects a focus on efficiency in governance without increasing the unit cost per director. Thus, do the Assembly approve the fees, which are the same for 2025, will be the same for 2026. It is so approved by unanimity. 16th point. 16th point, proposals and other topics. Dear gentlemen, do we have another subject to propose? You have the mic over there. I have a question. What is your perspective vis-à-vis gold in the medium, short, and long term? And the other question is how much, what is the percentage? Because I know that you did a provision for 5,000 per ounce. What is the provision we have for sales? Those are my questions. You made a provision for the cost structure. You made a cost structure. The budget, we need the budget at 4,200. The budget at 4,400 was the budget per ounce. And so about at the current levels, more than our position as a company, the position of the market and the consensus, the main analysts in the market, there is a general consensus that we continue in a bull market. The trend is towards as an increase. There's a lot of volatility in the short term, yes, but the perspective, the outlook are still positive and bullish. The fundamentals are clear, strong fundamentals that do not change in the short term. Central banks are buying. The NTF flows and market demand in Asian markets are very structural aspects that we consider are going to continue. So we believe that we will continue in a bullish market as has been happening in the recent years. The budget was 4,400. And the last question, do you delist in Colombia and bring it? No, on the contrary, we see very relevant value in shares in Colombia. In fact, we see growing flows and growing interest of Colombian investors coming into the share. Recently, the price of the share in Colombia is above Canada. So actually, of the 600,000 shares transacted in Mineros every day, 200,000 are in Colombia. So the opposite. We want to stay present in the Colombian market, the Colombian exchange, and we have the Latin American integrated market, which we hope to connect soon with the Peruvian and Chilean market, both countries eminently mining countries. So on the contrary, we see strategic relevance, strategic value to be listed in Colombia's stock exchange. Thank you for your questions. Very well. Are there any other proposals? The hand is over there. Please bring the mic over. You say that hopefully the shares in Chile and Peru and Colombia will complement. I report that from the first of the next month, the transactions are available in the three stock exchanges in Colombia. So it will become enabled the first of next month. I ask, are there any other questions or comments? Okay. Having no more proposals, then we close the assembly today. Thank you very much for your attendance, for your participation. Wishing you a great afternoon. Thank you very much. And for those connected remotely, watching through YouTube, thank you very much for your attendance and have a good afternoon.